Once again, the plane is without power and falling fast.
We knew that we don't have any possibility to restart the engines, and then we had to start looking for some place to land.
The plane is quickly closing in on 3,000 feet. At the rate it's dropping, it won't make it to New Orleans.
Okay, where do I put this thing down?
Visibility begins to improve when the plane breaks through the storm clouds. But it's still raining, and Dardanel has less than 3 minutes to find a place to land.
I was seeing just swampy land all over the place.
New Orleans is surrounded by canals and lakes. The city is protected by a system of levees, man-made barriers designed to prevent flooding. It's no place to try to land a 737.
Yeah, we don't have power on the engines.
TACA 110, I'm going to vector you to Lakefront Airport. You're only 11 miles from Lakefront.
I don't think I will make it. I don't have any power in the engines. I guess we'll have to go down. We're going to declare an emergency. We're going to have to decide where to put this thing.
TACA 110, do you have visual reference to the ground at this time?
Yes, sir.
TACA 110, there is an interstate highway directly ahead of you at 12 o'clock and 7 miles.
We'll see where it is.
Landing on a highway may be Dardanel's only option.
It was probably a possibility, but you always know that the freeways are full of cars. I said, no way I'm going to try to land in the highway because we'll kill many more people, so that was not our option, really.
11 years earlier, a Southern Airways flight facing a similar emergency was forced to land on a highway in Georgia. The crash landing killed 9 people on the ground and 63 people on board the plane.
I don't think we're going to be able to make it there.
You're 6 miles away from Lakefront Airport. Can you make it there?
No, sir, we're at 2,000 feet and losing altitude.
The crew only has one option left.
I guess I'm going to have to make a ditching here, sir.
They must take their chances and put the plane down in the water.
TACA 110, roger. Whatever you need to do, sir.
And that was about the last communication with the tower. Then we were like 1,500 feet when that was going on.
This is New Orleans Tower. We have an inbound 737 probable ditching. 45 souls on board.
The Coast Guard is immediately deployed. The crew of TACA Flight 110 plans to put the plane down in the canal directly ahead of them.
Okay. There. Put it down softly.
It was kind of the feeling of everyone on the plane that we weren't going to get out of this.
The 737 can only stay in the air for another minute. As Dardanel looks for a safe stretch of canal to drop the plane in, another option appears.
Look at that one over there.
And then Lopez saw the levee parallel to the canal that we were making the approach on.
Should we put it down on the grass? Yes, boss.
The levee is much shorter and narrower than a runway, but it looks safer than the water.
That's where we're going to go in? You got it, my friend.
They will have to act fast to get there.
Prepare the cabin.
You don't even have time to think about being scared. So I can't say I was scared. We had to start preparing the cabin.
Empezar a trabajar en la cabina.
La cabeza entre las rodillas y agarren los tobillos.
I had to assume crash position, and it was really difficult for me because I had just had surgery.
You're kidding me.
And I had stitches going up the middle of my stomach.
Stitches. Operation.
Passengers only have seconds to prepare.
Los pasajeros se tenían que quitar los zapatos, se tenían que...
The passengers had to take off their shoes, their jewelry. They had to put their shoes under the seat in front of them. So we went through the whole emergency checklist.
Que teníamos que trabajar.
Air traffic control can no longer pick up the low-flying 737 on radar. The controller asks other planes to look for it.
6 to Kilo Alpha. If you could check your east just slightly to the south 3 to 4 miles. We lost an aircraft down there, 737. If you could let me know what you see.
Roger. Kilo Alpha to 6. I'll see what I can do.
Me sentí con miedo al momento.
I felt scared when I got back to my seat. That's the moment when I really got scared.
Okay, put the gear down. All right.
But Captain Dardano is still flying towards the water.
Well, the levee was parallel to my right.
To have any hope of landing on the levee, he needs to make a sudden and dramatic course correction. That requires a risky maneuver known as a side slip.
So we just had to do a little bit side slip to get into position to make a perfect landing.
It's a move meant for small planes and gliders, not a 43-ton Boeing 737. But it's a risk he has to take.
Agarrate, papá.
I prayed. I was in disbelief that this was happening.
Only 700 feet separate the plane from the ground. Without engines, the pilots have no thrust reversers to slow the plane when it touches down. Dardano has an additional challenge. With only one eye, he's unable to gauge depth as he speeds towards the narrow, rain-soaked strip of grass.
Oh, God. Oh, God. I was prepared for the plane to blow up and explode. I was prepared for a tragic event and mentally had said goodbye to my family.
There's a high cement wall in front of the levee and a steep embankment on the left. There may not be enough room to land.
Ciao, Felipe, buenas. I see it.
Aquí te tengo, baby.
Aquí te tengo.
We touched down with one wheel and the other one. And
Was it a hard landing? Yes. If the seatbelt snapped, we would have flown through the plane, for sure.
On the soggy grass, the plane is in danger of skidding off the levee into the water.
I was trying just to control the airplane, not to hit the brakes and not to lose the airplane at the last minute, you know. The spoilers were out. So we were just thinking, okay, we make it, we make it, we make it.
Hey, good. Very good. Very good, Charlie. Very good, my
I was surprised.
It was a hard landing, but it was a nice landing. Just to be alive.
El aterrizaje fue espectacular. El avión.
The landing was spectacular. The plane landed so smoothly. There wasn't even a bit of turbulence.
No hubo ninguna ni media turbulencia.
A perfect landing.
Perfecto.
And that was, I think, the most beautiful landing that I ever made.
Cuando yo vi
When I looked out my window, there was no fire. So I immediately opened the door and deployed the slide.
Salió el tobogán.
Rápido, por la salida más cercana.
They told us to get off the plane, that the plane was going to blow up.
The New Orleans controller has no idea what has become of TACA Flight 110. Another aircraft relays the news to the tower.
Kilo Alpha to 6. Everything looks okay. Looks like you did a pretty good job.
They made it. You're not going to believe where they are.
For the first time in history, a 737 without any engines has landed safely outside of an airport. Now, investigators must find out why the sophisticated engines on a brand new jetliner failed in mid-flight. Pilots call this a dead stick landing. a landing with no engines. As it turns out, TACA 110 has landed on NASA property. This is the Michoud facility, where they manufacture parts for the space shuttle.
The evacuation was quick. We got out of the plane quickly. We slid down the chutes. I got to the top of the levee, and there were some nurses that were on the plane, and they looked at my stitches and everything.
No major injuries, just one person that had an operation, but she's okay. Where were you headed? To New Orleans.
And soon after, an ambulance came, put me on a stretcher, and took me to the hospital.
We have to thank God.
That's right, yes.
And also our captain, because he kept me calm.
Now that's not something you see every day.
Within hours of the emergency, investigators arrive and begin examining the damaged plane.
To end up with a jetliner sitting on a levee, having landed there, being perfectly intact, is almost an unbelievable sight. It's beyond incredible.
There's a couple of questions for you, but first thing I'd like to say is, nice landing. So, tell me, when did the engine trouble start?
Investigators meet with the crew right away. They want to know exactly what was happening when the engines flamed out.
We were descending through 16.5 when both our engines flamed out at the same time.
That both of them coming apart at the same time is an infinitesimal possibility.
This plane was powered by one of the most advanced and widely used jet engines on Earth, the CFM56. It powers not only the Boeing 737, but Airbus and military planes as well.
The CFM56 is just a marvel of current engineering and aeronautically. There are thousands and thousands of them out there, and they almost never ever fail.
But 2 CFM56s had failed on this one plane alone. Investigators desperately need to know why.
I haven't flown through too many storms that intense.
They turn their attention to the weather conditions.
It's considered a very rare occurrence for engines to have flamed out in flight. And therefore, the concentration was on what possibility would cause this. Is there an environmental effect, since they were flying through rain and hail?
Tell me about the storm.
The winds were fierce. There was so much rain and hail, we could barely see out the window.
Dents in the fuselage reveal that the plane was struck by hail, almost an inch in diameter. If the hail was strong enough to damage the exterior of the plane, investigators wonder if it crippled the engines as well. A turbofan engine is made up of a system of fans and blades. A large fan brings air into the engine. A series of blades compresses the incoming air, which mixes with fuel to ignite, spinning the turbines deep inside the engine.
The first thing you look for is to find the parts and then look in the front and the back of the engine to determine if there's damage that might explain something has gone in the engine or something has broken inside the engine.
To peer inside the engine, they use a borescope.
This is where you put the little TV camera on the end of a scope of some sort. You can look in the internal hot section of the engine and see what they could see.
No hail damage to the compressor that I can see. Keep going deeper. Let's see what's at the center.
But the turbines deep inside the engine are charred.
Look at this. Turbines are almost completely melted.
When the engine overheats, if the overheat is allowed to occur long enough, then it will cause melting of the turbine blades.
So when did you get the temperature warning?
The engines started to overheat right after we started them.
And the damage to the turbine, which is the melting of the blades, means